Welcome everyone to the BILT webinar series Skill Up, Stay Ahead, TVET for Employability. I can see that participants are slowly coming in. Thank you for greeting us on the chat. I see that so many people from so many different places all over the world are joining us, and this is really a great pleasure. My name is Margarita Langthaler. I am a researcher with the Austrian Foundation for Development Research, and I have the pleasure and the honor to be the facilitator throughout this webinar series. I'm happy to see so many people, and indeed I can say good morning, good afternoon, and for some of us, good night. For the first time in a BILT Learning Lab, we have also colleagues from Latin America on board, and for some of them it is quite early in the morning, so we appreciate all the more that you are here. So especially for our colleagues from Latin America and the Caribbean, we have translation into Spanish and Portuguese. Para escuchar la traducción en español, haga clic en el icono del globo
In order
situado
to hear the translation
en la
into
barra
Spanish, you just
inferior
have to click on
de la
the
pantalla y
bottom
seleccione el
menu on the
idioma.
right and select your language.
So for translation, click on the globe and select your language. Before I introduce our program and the house rules, I would like to pass over the floor to Kenny Muscat from UNESCO-UNEVOC and manager of the BILT project for his opening remarks. Kenny, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Margarita, for the introduction. My name is Kenny Muscat, and I work as a program officer at the UNESCO-UNEVOC International Center for Technical and Vocational Education and Training. I am very happy to be here with you today. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Greetings from Bonn, Germany. Thank you so much for joining us. A warm welcome to the BILT webinar series, Skill Up, Stay Ahead, TVET for Employability, which UNESCO-UNEVOC is organizing together with the German Federal Institute for Vocational Education and Training, BIBB, a very active UNEVOC center, and the Austrian Foundation for Development Research, ÖFSE. As I mentioned, this webinar series is part of the BILT project. For those that are new to BILT, which stands for Bridging Innovation and Learning in TVET, the BILT project is implemented by UNESCO-UNEVOC with the support of BIBB, which I already mentioned, and with funds from the German Federal Ministry for Education, Family Affairs, Senior Citizens, Women and Youth. Thank you, BIBB and the Ministry for Education, for making this project possible. The BILT project has been implemented since 2019. And this webinar series comes at a special time as the BILT project moves to its fourth phase. While so far the project focused on Africa, Asia Pacific, and Europe, BILT is now expanding and including other regions. An example of this important development is the strong focus of the webinar series on Latin America and the Caribbean. Not only that, but BILT is now part of a larger project at UNESCO-UNEVOC, the Innovation and Excellence in TVET project, which is part of an even wider initiative towards a global TVET agenda, which was initiated by the German Ministry for Education and which is coordinated by BIBB. In this initiative, UNESCO-UNEVOC is collaborating with multilateral organizations in TVET, namely ETF, OECD, and ILO, on different projects and activities to improve excellence in TVET, to make it more attractive, to improve its status, and to make it more relevant. Since I mentioned the new Innovation and Excellence in TVET project and the Towards a Global TVET Agenda initiative, please allow me to announce that in collaboration with the German Federal Ministry for Education, Family Affairs, Senior Citizens, Women and Youth, and with the support of ETF, ILO, OECD, and BIBB, UNESCO-UNEVOC is organizing a Global TVET Forum between 28th and 30th October in Berlin, Germany, to launch the initiative and the project. The first 2 days of the Global TVET Forum will be streamed online, and you can already register through the link available in the webpage of the event. We really hope that you join us to learn more about the several opportunities that you can contribute to and benefit from as part of the project and the wider initiative that I mentioned. The work of UNESCO-UNEVOC is guided by the UNESCO strategy for TVET for the years 2022 to 2029, and this strategy highlights the role of TVET to benefit individuals, economies, and societies. The webinar series on TVET for employability aligns with this strategy. TVET is instrumental for individuals to maximize their potential and to contribute to inclusive and sustainable economies that leave no one behind. The webinar series also aligns with the work of UNESCO-UNEVOC as it implements the medium-term strategy for the years 2024 to 2029. The medium-term strategy includes 8 thematic areas: equity and inclusion, lifelong learning, green and digital transformation, artificial intelligence, multi-stakeholder engagement with the private sector, innovation and excellence, career guidance, and global citizenship education. 3 of these themes, lifelong learning, private sector engagement, and career guidance, are directly addressed in the 4 webinars of this series. Why do webinar series Skill Up, Stay Ahead, TVET for Employability? In 2025, we are facing various global challenges: climate change, sustainable development, economic uncertainty, uneven growth, technological change, automation, artificial intelligence, demographic transitions, societal and political issues. These challenges are significantly changing labor market dynamics. TVET has a vital role in aligning to the labor market changes and in improving employability. TVET offers practical, market-relevant training that equips the workforce with the competencies necessary to navigate these transformations, positioning it as a key instrument in addressing underemployment and unemployment. TVET must evolve to respond to the global challenges by providing better policies, better institutional management, better teaching and learning. During today's and the upcoming webinars, we are bringing together stakeholders from government, industry, academia, and training institutions. We look forward for engagement, peer learning, and potential new collaborations to support further TVET initiatives to improve learners' prospects of employability. I would like to thank the team working on this webinar series and all the speakers that agreed to share their expertise. I would like to finish by thanking you for your interest in this webinar and in the BILT project. We hope to see you again for the next webinars. I now hand over to Margarita from ÖFSE, who is moderating today's webinar.
Thank you very much, Kenny, for these introductory words. Before we start our program, I would like to say a few words about our house rules and to introduce our team. So for those who just entered, for translation, please click on the globe icon at the bottom of your screen and select the language. Please note also that this webinar will be recorded. Presentations and the recording will be shared on the website. For any technical issues or any other remarks like documents to be shared or links, please use the chat function. Our colleagues from UNEVOC will supervise the chat. We have Feliz de Muni, who will take care of English requests, and Natalie X, who will take care of requests in Spanish. And we have 2 colleagues, Max Ehlers and Aldrich Mejia, who are in charge of any technical questions. And last but not least, I would like to mention my colleague Clemens Lobnik from ÖFSE, who will assist me in moderating. Please note that the chat should not be used for questions and statements referring to the ongoing presentations or discussions. Instead, for these, please use the Q&A function. You will find the icon on your screen in the bottom bar. So now it is briefly time to introduce our program. This is the first episode in a series of 4, which will be held from today on every Tuesday at the same time. The series as a whole is dedicated to the overarching topic of TVET and employability. And today we will discuss the overarching topic and try to gain a common understanding. And then we will dive into the subtopic of work-based learning. The following webinars will discuss dual TVET, career guidance and mentoring approaches, and industry partnerships for professional development. We will start today's program with a short check-in exercise to get everybody on board. We will build a word cloud together using the app Mentimeter, and we warmly invite all of you to participate in this exercise. I will shortly tell you more on this, but first some words on the program. After the check-in, we will welcome our first guests who will introduce us to the topic of employability and to the role of TVET in it. We are very, very happy to welcome Stephanie Allais from the University of Witwatersrand in South Africa and Gonzalo Graña from Allais Cinterfor in Montevideo, Uruguay. And they will share the reflections from an academic and from a policy perspective, respectively. As you know, the BILT project wants to create opportunities for mutual learning and knowledge exchange. And that is why it is important to use to us to design this webinar in an interactive way. We do not only want to present knowledge and experience from different organizations and regions to you, but we also want to hear from yourself, your expectations in this webinar, your lessons of experience, your knowledge, that what you want to know and you want to share with us. And we therefore have prepared an interactive exercise to collect your ideas and expectations so that we can feed them into the webinar series. This is very easy, and I'm sure you will enjoy this exercise. Next, we will dive into today's topic, work-based learning. We'll start with a session of promising practices where 3 guests from different regions and organizations will each present a successful practice. And this will be followed by a question and answer session. And finally, we will give the floor to 3 experts who will discuss work-based learning in an open panel discussion. And we, of course, all invite you to join in with questions and statements. So now we will start with our check-in exercise to welcome all of you and get you all on board. Some of you might be familiar with the Mentimeter, others not, but in fact, it is very easy to use. I would like to ask you to open the Mentimeter app in your browser. Just type in www.menti.com and type in the code that you see on the slide. And then I would kindly ask you to answer the following question. What are the main challenges TVET is currently facing, especially when it comes to keeping up with labor market challenges? Type your answers in the box and press the submit button. Skills is a challenge. Lack of funding. Not enough teachers. Funding. Social inclusion, attractiveness. Lecturer training. Poor image. The cloud is growing, as I see, and I can see many topics that are actually challenges to many different contexts, as far as I know. I see also some mentions of technology challenges, social challenges. And it continues to grow, our word cloud. So I can see that there are 2 main challenges so far. We have the image of TVET and funding, and there is also local. I suppose it means that the local context needs somehow to be reflected in TVET, and this might be a challenge in many contexts. And we have outdated curriculum, inadequately trained teachers, motivation I see as well, finance very often, transfer of competencies, social partnership. This is indeed a challenge in many contexts. Ever-changing technologies. This is also quite a challenging challenge. Okay, thank you very much for this interesting word cloud, which continues to change and to grow. And I see many terms and topics that we will be discussing during this webinar series. So as I said, those who are most relevant to many of you are funding, the image of TVET, private sector, I suppose private sector engagement, the mismatch of skills, social partnership, gender as well, and it continues to grow. Thank you very much for participating and sharing your ideas with us. And we will feed this already also in our discussions, since I'm sure that many of these challenges are actually shared by many of our participants. Thank you very much. We will now go on to our first session, which is a kind of prepared conversation or an interview with two experts on TVET and employability, although from different perspectives. Stephanie Allais is a research chair of skills development and professor of education at the Center for Researching Education and Labor at the University of Witwatersrand in South Africa. Hello, Stephanie. Good to see you.
Hi, Margarita. Lovely to be
Hi.
here.
Stephanie researches international education and development, focused on the education and work relationships. She's editor of the Journal of Vocational Education and Training and on the editorial boards of various other journals. She's also a visiting professor at the University of Glasgow, and previously she was a fellow at the Centre for Educational Sociology at the University of Edinburgh and a research associate at the International Labour Organization. Thank you so much for joining us. And our second guest is Gonzalo Graña. He is a technical officer at the ILO Cinterfor, where he has worked for over 20 years. Hello, Gonzalo. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Gonzalo's work has focused on research and documentation on social dialogue in and on vocational training in Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as on the capacity building of social partners for their qualified participation in instances of institutionalized social dialogue on vocational training and employment policies. Gonzalo has also worked on the issues of policies and training programs for young people in the context of youth employment policies, and with a particular emphasis in recent years on quality apprenticeship or dual training programs in the region. He's a sociologist and a lawyer by training. So thank you to both of you for joining us, and we're looking forward to learning from your ideas and from your experience. Stephanie, may I ask the first question to you? In your research, you have been focusing on the relations between education and TVET, or education and work. I have read many of your papers, and I have to say that I have been very impressed by how you describe the complexity of these relationships. And this has helped me a lot to understand the importance of the socioeconomic and the political context and the reasons why some policies work out while others don't. I have also noted that you are quite critical of some of the concepts that often tend to be used as buzzwords in policy contexts. So I thought, who else would be more valid to open up this discussion series to make us think and reflect on the topic of employability, before we go over and speak about our daily work and routine. So welcome again. Here is the question to you. As an academic, what is your understanding of the concept of employability and its relation to TVET? And if I may add, why are you critical of this concept?
Thanks, Margarita, and hi, everyone around the world. It's great to be here. I think it's a wonderful seminar series. I'm really happy to be part of it. You know, on one level, obviously, TVET is there to make people employable. So it's kind of like, how could you be critical of it? It's like motherhood and apple pie. We love them. We can't dislike it. But I have, you know, so that's the kind of surface understanding of it. I'd like to introduce three critiques of and why I think it can be a problematic term. Although that's not to say that it's not something that we aren't aiming at. The first is what does it actually mean in terms of what employers are looking for? And, you know, that's obviously always seen as the holy grail of TVET. What do employers want? Lots of countries are building labor market intelligence systems, labor market information systems. But it turns out to be an incredibly fraught exercise, whether we're doing old-fashioned manpower planning and trying to forecast, whether we're trying to look at labor force trends, whether we're asking employers directly. It's never a simple thing figuring out what actually it is that they are looking for. One of the things that comes out quite starkly when you do interview employers, and you can see this in very many pieces of research around the world, is that they very strongly emphasize so-called general skills, generic skills, transversal skills, but it's not always clear exactly what they mean by that. Sometimes they might be using it as a proxy for something else. Another thing that's very clear when you ask employers is that what they say they need doesn't always follow their hiring patterns. So that's my first critique, that it's not straightforward to figure out what it is that actually makes people employable. The second reason that I think it can be a problematic term is that it pushes the burden back onto individuals. So instead of saying we have a societal problem, you know, in my country, South Africa, we have chronic structural high unemployment. And the word employability can be used in ways that makes it sound like the problem is with the individuals. They don't have the right skills. Now, sometimes that is the case, but very often the problem is in the demand side of the economy. The problem is structural, and it's not actually about the skills and abilities that individual people do or don't have. And the third point, and then I'll wrap up, Margarita, is that you know, even if we could agree on what it actually means, what it is that employers are looking for, it's really complicated to move from that to a curriculum. And so I think there tends to be overemphasis in the VET space on if we can just figure out what employers need, the curriculum, it's almost like it'll follow logically and naturally from that. And I think that that's not the case. That's why I was pleased to see so many people talking about funding, because I think VET is so chronically funded and the institutions are so chronically undercapacitated in most countries. And actually developing curricula that can develop transversal skills, confidence, articulateness, problem solving at the same time as technical skills is a very, very challenging role. It's obviously much easier in countries with dual apprenticeship systems. And I know that we are going to be talking about this in one of the later events. And I know that many countries around the world, most countries have always had some kind of dual apprenticeship system, but small ones. And many are now trying to reinvigorate them, restart them, pilot them. But I think that, you know, the research suggests that it will be very difficult to develop mass-based dual systems like you have in the German-speaking countries, in most countries. Where you have an apprenticeship system, the young people are in the workplace, and so by default, they are learning those skills. at the same time as they're learning in the TVET college. Where you don't, the expectations on the TVET system are really huge. And I think sometimes we expect so much from these institutions that we give so little support and capacity to. So those are some of the reasons why I'm cautious about using the word employability in this space.
Thank you. Interesting reflections. My next question goes to Gonzalo. Can you still see me? I have, oh, yes. Okay. Okay, I'll continue and hopefully my colleague Clemens will take care of that. Okay, so my next question goes to Gonzalo, who will speak in Spanish. So all English speakers, please get your translation ready. You have to click on the globe icon and select English language. So we can all follow Gonzalo. I see I have a different camera on now. I can also look over here. Okay, now it works. Okay, thank you very much, Clemens. Okay, so Gonzalo, you work at ILO Cinterfor, and as such, your work focuses at the policy level. And in an earlier conversation we had like maybe 6 weeks ago, you mentioned that the question of different definitions and meanings of well-known concepts such as employability is important, and that this can sometimes create problems at the policy level. So let me start by asking you, what is ILO Cinterfor's understanding of the concept of employability and its relation to TVET?
Thank you, Margarita. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. Greetings from Montevideo, Uruguay, from the ILO Interforce. To respond to your question, Margarita, I would like to place Interforce structurally. Interforce is a member of ILO. It is a regulation organization like working conventions or international work recommendations. And to answer your question, as a ILO officer, I will go to the recommendation 195 that was adopted about 20 years ago, but it has a very clear definition on the term employability. That is the definition that by ILO, at least at a regulation level. Employability in this context refers to skills and competences that may be transferred to strengthen the capacity of people to capitalize on opportunities on education and training for several purposes: to find and preserve a decent job, and to progress in companies, and to adapt to the evolution of technology and the work market conditions. So we can divide this definition. Realize that TVET is at the heart of this employability definition. So competencies and qualifications that are able to be transferred. Able to be transferred mean that that includes something that Stephanie has already mentioned, like soft skills, social skills, in addition to the technical skills. So we can use these competences or these skills to be able to move from company to company and from sector to sector. But this definition is highlighting a very important element: the achievement of a decent job, a quality job. So if we are talking about this part of the definition, when we talk about the challenges, at the heart of this definition, we find the aspiration or the purpose that employability refers to access to a decent job. This is not a static concept. It is a dynamic concept, actually. So this is a changing concept that is changing over time. So it is necessary to focus or highlight skilling, upskilling, and reskilling. So employability is not something that may be achieved at once and forever. And I want to conclude this first intervention by highlighting something that was already mentioned by Stephanie on her criticism or how careful one should be when we are handling this concept. This definition, as it is in the regulation, is highlighting the person, the individual. And there may be a risk to transfer to the individual responsibility something that is conditionally by the structure itself. So there is an important role in the public policy, or in the state actor as well, to provide those opportunities to capitalize on training and education towards the purpose of increasing the employability of people. So the focus is not only on TVET, but also on other public policy devices, such as active work market policies, through services just as in work mediation, mentoring. So this is in the chapter 3rd of policy challenges. So we will be addressing how TVET policies should be articulated with other devices of public policy that are related to education and work market, and also this concept that is so important of relevance or belonging that was already mentioned as well. So in my first intervention, Margarita, that is how ILO understands the concept of employability.
Thank you very much. Very important points that you mentioned here, and also thank you for referring back to Stephanie's criticism. Actually, Stephanie, the next question to you, why has it proven so difficult for TVET institutions, especially in low and middle income countries? That is, as I understand, the context where you're focusing on. Why has it been so difficult to make a difference in terms of employability?
Margarita, it's a really complicated question, and there's many, many different facets to the answers. So, I mean, we have written quite a lot about this, but I'll just highlight 2 main points. The first is that, where you don't have occupational labor markets, it's very difficult to develop strong vocational qualifications because there's no agreement on what the occupation is that you're training for. So in countries like Germany and Switzerland, the notion of occupations very strongly organizes the labor market, whether it's through a license to practice, whether it's through social and cultural recognition of occupations, the fact that employers require qualifications when they're hiring for different occupations. And so you have a fairly broad notion of occupation. You can then develop a broad curriculum, and that curriculum can be applicable across a number of different workplaces. What you've tended to see in the English-speaking world, and many low and middle income countries have mimicked policies from developed countries in the English-speaking world, is when policymakers try to make VET more relevant and try to make it more relevant to the needs of employers, they often get locked into very narrow workplace-specific, task-based kind of competencies, which then lead to very narrow qualifications that don't actually have broad purchase in the labor market and which employers don't value very much. So it's a curious kind of paradox that you see in much of the English-speaking world and in many of the models that are used for VET reform in low and middle income countries. So I think it's really difficult to, you can never achieve a narrow one-on-one fit between education and work. They're different spheres. As I said earlier, where you do have apprenticeship-based systems, so you're learning some of the broad bodies of expertise as well as general education, but you are also learning workplace readiness in the workplace. Where you don't have apprenticeship-based systems and you don't have a broad notion of occupational roles, you have lots and lots and lots of fragmented occupational qualifications that end up actually not having a lot of purchase. So it's a strange kind of paradox of chasing relevance, but in a very narrow task-based way that's linked to specific workplaces and then doesn't have broad applicability across industries, across different workplaces in the same occupational area. Coupled with that, you have enormous pressure on general education enrollments. And so you have a kind of a vicious cycle where the stigma of VET is reinforced over time because more and more people are getting through school, are getting into universities. And so it's harder and harder for the people who are trying to build vocational education systems to really to make a go of them and to make them attractive to the population, where general schooling is an option and where labor markets are very fluid. And so actually they, people don't often very specific training for one very specific workplace isn't going to benefit them. So I think that's the kind of conundrum. There's many others, but I think those are two core structural problems. And I think it's important to foreground them because, it's not like people aren't aware of this problem and haven't been trying to solve it. People have been trying really hard to solve it for 30 years, 40 years. We've seen reform after reform after reform after reform. So I think we really have to step back and think through what are the broad structural forces that are making these reforms not to work. And I think those are two which I would highlight.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. Gonzalo, those two challenges at the, let's say, structural level that Stephanie just highlighted, do you see them also in the Latin American and Caribbean region? Or are there other challenges that you would see in this field specific to the Latin American and Caribbean region?
Thank you for your question. Of course, those two challenges, structural challenges that Stephanie has pointed out, are clearly relevant for the context of Latin America and the Caribbean. So, and I would like to highlight another point adding up to the challenges faced by our region. Our region has a very high rate of informal job. We have a 46% of workers in the region. They are working in informal jobs, and we have big differences in terms of gender, in the participation of the engagement, the rating of women in the work market. Women that do not have studies, it is 29%, while men, they have a very high rate of 78%. So we have youth people with a lack of decent jobs, and also structural challenge. They are not being trained. So these are some of the items that are deep in the roots of those structural challenges. No, it is not cultural, they are structural challenges in the work market, and a very low productivity problem also. And small companies with a very high percentage within the productive output. And also, one of the challenges has to do with vocational training. And one of these challenges has to do with inputs, with what comes into this vocational training. So we have very serious trouble with the educational or the training quality of those people that have completed a medium level training with a very high work. They are not being trained. So these are some of the items that are deep in the roots of those structural challenges. No, it is not cultural, they are structural challenges in the work market, and a very low productivity problem also. And small companies with a very high percentage within the productive output. And also, one of the challenges has to do with vocational training. And one of these challenges has to do with inputs, with what comes into this vocational training. So we have very serious trouble with the educational or the training quality of those people that have completed a medium level training. Companies need with a very high from us. But we have some complementary visions because we also have to have a relevant teaching offer for our target audience, those that we are working with, and not all needs the same kind of contents in this vocational training. And we also need it to be relevant in terms of the public policies, industrial policies, and sectoral policies. So we can talk about a triple relevance, not only for companies, but also for people, for industrial development policies. And lastly, one really big challenge, at least in Latin America and the Caribbean, it is that the vocational training in many countries, it is not linked to the formal educational system. So we don't have those bridges or those gateways in order to move from one system to the next. So in different countries, these young men, young women that they take the vocational training path, they cannot get this, they cannot embrace this lifelong learning perspective. They cannot, move on to the formal tertiary educational system. And these are, for example, some of the instrumental or structural work and labor market challenges that we have also for vocational systems. And I would like to highlight them because they somehow lead us to think what may be those answers in terms of public policies. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Gonzalo. A lot of challenges, and I see here many overlapping also with terms that appeared in the word cloud, and many of these we will also discuss during today and the following webinars. So thank you very much. I had prepared a third question to each of you, but we are running out of time here, and there are also some questions from the audience. So I would say we'd rather have a look what people would like to ask you directly, and hopefully we can then somehow conclude with a very short answer to the very short last question. Okay, let's see who is here in the question and answer session. So how well do current vocational training programs reflect the actual needs of local industries, especially in underdeveloped countries? So this is one question. I'm going to, for the sake of time, I'm going to sum them up if possible. Then occupations are basically classified from function service, and a huge number needs to be reduced. Just a thought. Okay, this is more a statement and a contribution than a question. And here we have another question. I find the view of narrow fragmented qualifications very interesting. Stephanie, please elaborate on this, especially in the context that one collaborates with employers to arrive at these job tasks and functions. What strategies are being used to address these issues? So here we have a complex question, but I trust in Stephanie that you will be able to answer very shortly. Okay. Training content becomes obsolete quickly as industries adopt new tools, software, or machines. What is the solution? Another of these very easy questions. Okay. I'm afraid we cannot take all of them, but we will keep them and try to answer them then through the chat function. I think we have to leave it to this, otherwise we will be too late on the schedule. But now I would like to invite Gonzalo and Stephanie to quickly elaborate on these questions. Stephanie, would you like to start?
To start?
Sure. Yeah, maybe I'll just try and sum up by saying I think the strategy is to consolidate, as the person said in the comment, into broader occupational clusters, what colleagues in Australia have called vocational streams, even where there aren't one-on-one correspondence with specific occupations where you don't have occupational labor markets. But I do think, and I think the other part of the strategy, and that's why I'm very happy that the seminar is looking at workplace-based learning, is that we can't do everything in the formal programs. And so I think it is important that we try and build broad that relate to different areas of work, but not design our curricula from tasks from specific workplaces. And I do think that that can become a trap when we're working with employers, because we don't want to be designing we don't want to be designing formal long-term training for specific jobs that are going to change, that are going to become obsolete, or that only meet the needs of one particular company. So I think it is really important that we think about what training can only happen in the workplace, and maybe, you know, some countries have skills levies and so on. Maybe more money should be given to support employers to do on-the-job training that complements the formal training that happens in TVET colleges and schools. And we shouldn't try and replicate that necessarily. That's not to say we should do no practical work, but we need to be building broader occupational or vocational competence in formal programs.
Thank you, Stephanie. I see that there apparently is a problem with the Spanish translation. Is this working again? I hope that my
Podemos
colleagues
hacer la
can have a
prueba.
look into that. Okay,
Bueno, yo
yes,
voy
I guess
a
it is working. Okay,
usar
Gonzalo,
mi.
the floor
Thank
is
you,
yours.
Margarita. Yeah, thank you. Yo voy a usar mi minuto final para señalar en materia de prioridades de política y también recogiendo algunas de las preguntas que aparecían en el Q&A, la importancia de fortalecer en la región de América Latina y el Caribe, al menos, lo que es el tripartismo y el diálogo social en el diseño, la ejecución y la evaluación de la política pública de formación profesional. Creo que las organizaciones de empleadores, junto con las organizaciones de trabajadores, tienen elementos muy importantes para aportar en el diseño de la política, para hacerla más relevante, para hacerla más inclusiva y de mayor calidad. Creo también, y con esto quiero ir cerrando, que hay que tener una mirada más amplia de la política pública de formación articulada con otros campos de la política pública y tener un enfoque de todo el gobierno en estos temas. Y quiero recoger lo que se decía en el Menti al inicio, y es que sin un financiamiento adecuado, predecible, sostenible de la formación profesional, difícilmente podamos lograr sistemas robustos, resilientes, que den cuenta de los enormes desafíos que tienen los sistemas de formación profesional, tanto desde un punto de vista económico como desde un punto de vista social. Y decir finalmente que concuerdo con las intervenciones de Stephanie en cuanto a que no podemos tener largos programas de formación profesional pensados en ocupaciones que son muy dinámicas, que están cambiando y que por lo tanto esa noción de relevancia no solamente es para el día de hoy, también es para el futuro. Y creo que es muy importante que los sistemas de formación profesional tengan adecuados mecanismos de anticipación de necesidades de formación y de análisis de brechas de competencias para poder cumplir mejor con su misión. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much to Gonzalo and Stephanie. Your thoughts are so complex and long that we didn't manage to make it to the third round, but I feel that it has been very thought-provoking and fruitful to have to dig a bit into under the surface of what is TVET and what is employability and how they're both connected. And I also do hope, and I can tell from the questions in the chat that this discussion has provoked the thoughts of our audience, which is very important because we need them now. So I would like to thank Stephanie and Gonzalo and introduce our next session, which will be an interactive exercise to collect your ideas and expectations and your thoughts so that we can feed them into the webinar series and discuss about the issues that are really of interest to you. We will do this with the help of a Zoom whiteboard. We have prepared here 4 columns, one for each of the 4 webinar episodes. And we would kindly like to invite you to write down one question or one idea regarding each of these subtopics. And here we are interested in learning what do you want to know and what do you want to discuss in relation to each subtopic. One column is for work-based learning, one for dual WET, the topic of the next episode, and one for career guidance and mentoring, and the last one for industry partnerships for professional teacher development. So please write down one question or one idea or one wish that you would like to have discussed on each of these subtopics. Yes, you can just click on the sticky notes on the post-its that you have in each column, write down the text you want to have, and then drag it into the correct column. And we should actually have prepared a 5th column, which is for other ideas that might not fit completely in one of these 4 columns. So over to you, the floor is yours, and we are very eager to learn what you're actually interested in to discuss during this webinar. So click on the sticky notes, write whatever you think we should be discussing, and drag them into the column where they fit. Okay, I see that there are some first sticky notes coming. Apparently it takes a while until they are transmitted to the screen. Okay, so we have one on career guidance, complementarity with other segments of education, which is actually an important one. Okay. There is a problem with access to the sticky note. I guess you just need to click on it and then you can drag it. And you should also be able to make it bigger or smaller. Oh, thank you, Felister, for posting an explication in the chat. Okay, there is another problem with the sticky note. Try to click on it and drag it. Okay, so I see that there are problems with the sticky notes. You just put the cursor over the note, you click on the left side of the mouse, and then you can drag the sticky note somewhere, and then you can increase it and just type into it. Yes, if you have problems with the sticky notes, you can also share your ideas in the chat, and I trust that Felista and Natalie will transfer them to the columns, to the whiteboard. I see that there are coming interesting questions. Okay. You can keep on writing. We still have a few minutes for this exercise, and I can see that there are really very interesting ideas, and probably also topics that are relevant to many of our participants from very different contexts. Okay, so we can do it that way. I see you're using the chat, that it's perfectly fine. We will then transfer your ideas, your questions, your thoughts in the columns, and we will be able probably to show the ready-made whiteboard after the session. Okay, so this is great. Thank you for participating and sharing your experience in your day-to-day work with us and sharing your challenges, what you're interested in knowing. This is very helpful. Okay, I suggest that we give it another minute for everybody to write down what they consider important to be discussed. Okay. I see that there are many questions on the industry partnership. So this means that we will have a lot to discuss in that session then. Okay. And there are also interesting questions in the last column, other ideas. Okay, so thank you very much. This is really wonderful. In order to have really an interactive webinar series where also your ideas are fed into the process of discussion. Thank you very much. We will feed all your questions, ideas, food for thought into these little sticky notes and create hopefully a very nice whiteboard full of ideas and questions that we will discuss throughout the coming episodes. Okay, thank you so much. It is time now to start discussing today's subtopic, which is work-based learning. Before we start our sessions, I would kind of like to briefly introduce the main concepts of work-based learning so that we all start from the same or a similar understanding. Some of you might know them, but maybe not all of you, so it's always worth just reflecting shortly about what we are actually talking. So these definitions I'm going to present now are from the UNESCO-UNEVOC TVET glossary at the UNEVOC website. So work-based learning refers to all forms of learning that takes place in a real work environment. It helps to provide individuals with the skills needed to obtain and keep jobs and progress in their professional development. There are three most common types of work-based learning. So the first one are apprenticeships, the second ones are traineeships and internships, and the third one are on-the-job training. Apprenticeships provide occupational skills and typically lead to the recognized qualification. They combine learning in the workplace with school-based learning in a structured way. And mostly apprenticeships last several years and include work contracts and a salary. Traineeships and internships, on the other hand, are workplace training programs that complement formal or non-formal education and training programs. And they may last from a few weeks or days to months and may not include work contracts or a salary. And on-a-job training takes place in a normal work environment. And most commonly, it has the form of work-based learning throughout an individual's working life. So these are, this is the, let's say, general understanding of work-based learning and its three manifestations, if we want to say like this, in the real world of work. I'm very happy now to introduce our next session to you, which is a session on promising practices. We have three speakers from very different regions to allow for a wide variety of experiences, and each of them will present their successful practice to you. The point of the session is to have a very short presentation and then have time for question and answers. So we will do this as elevator pitches, 3 minutes for each speaker. Please, dear speakers, stick to the time, and I trust that you will understand if I interrupt, because this is my job as a moderator. So we'll start, geographically speaking, in the west with Vanessa. Vanessa Canhete, I hope the pronunciation is not completely wrong. She is an industrial development specialist at SENAI, the National Industry Learning Service in Brazil. She holds a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering and a master's in production engineering. She has also done postgraduate studies in industrial administration. Through her work, she has developed extensive industry experience and as industrial process and manufacturing engineering coordinator, specializing in process development, optimization and innovation, technology and project management. Over the past 13 years with Brazil's National Industrial Learning Service, she has led innovation and technology initiatives and currently focuses as part of the Professional and Higher Education Superintendent's Office. Thank you, Vanessa, for joining us.
Thank
Our
you,
second
Margarita.
speaker, thank you, is Dr. Faisal Ben Brahim. We'll travel geographically speaking further east. This slide, yes, thank you. This is the right slide. We'll travel to Tunisia in Northern Africa. Faisal Ben Brahim is currently Director of Evaluation and Quality of Training at the Ministry of Employment and Vocational Training in Tunisia. He obtained a doctorate in the educational sciences and training from the University of Côte d'Azur in France, being initially trained as general engineer in mechanics at the École nationale des ingénieurs de Tunisie. He has also a master's degree in manufacturing processes from the École des Arts et Métiers in Paris. Faisal has in total approximately 25 years experience in the education and TVET field, and he has worked in and managed TVET projects in Tunisia and in other countries. And our third speaker, Priscilla Davies Nangatai, I understand that, here she is. Great, Priscilla. Hello, good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. you have made the effort to getting up in the middle of the night. What time is it right now in New Zealand? 3 o'clock. Okay. So thank you very much for making this effort. I would kind of like to introduce Priscilla to you. She's an experienced academic leader at Wintec Waikato Institute of Technology in New Zealand, managing a team of business academics delivering undergraduate and postgraduate studies. In addition, Priscilla serves as a governance board member for Work Integrated Learning in New Zealand and chairs its finance committee. In these roles, she supports national efforts to connect learners with industry through impactful applied learning opportunities. And in addition, as a Maori leadership researcher, Priscilla applies a Tauranga Maori perspective to inform decision-making, foster inclusivity, and strengthen bicultural partnerships across Aotearoa, New Zealand. Sorry for my pronunciation. Thank you, all of you, for joining us. We're looking forward to your promising practices from actually different geographical contexts and also different institutional contexts. Vanessa, we will start with you.
Okay.
So the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Vanessa from Senai in Brazil. And for more than 8 years, Senai has been training people for careers in industry, making sure that the training is not the only high quality, but also directly connected to the real needs of the labor market in the industry. And one of our most exciting initiatives is the sectoral program. The program connects industry representatives, companies, and Senai to design training and really matches what industry needs. What makes this program different is that the industry representatives are in the center of the process, completely engaged on that. They help us to define exactly what kinds of professional our needs, what skills are in demand, and which profiles are most promising for the future. They also play a very important role in opening the doors of the industry to new talents and encouraging people to update their skills within the sectors instead of leaving to pursue only entrepreneurship or informality. In this way, we ensure that companies can count on a steady flow of well-prepared professionals, and the workers can count on real opportunities to growth and employability. The learner's journey starts very simple, with a short courses as a first taste of industrial careers, and then growth into full professional like qualifications. And along the way, Senai is all responsible for all education aspects, but companies support the students and make sure classes are practical, engaging, and accessible. And then we change all time, Senai and the industry, these conditions to ensure that the students are engaged. And
Vanessa, excuse me just a second. I'm seeing that here are many people struggling to hear you.
yeah, could you hear me? Well,
I can hear you well, but in the chat, many people are writing that they cannot hear you well. Others can hear you. Maybe there is a this is a question of the translation channel. Could this be the case?
I'm very fast, you can slow down.
So, okay. Okay, fine. So please continue. Sorry for interrupting.
Please? Okay, let's see. So I was talking about the industry representatives in the center of the process of our program, and how this is very important. They also play a very important role in the opening doors for the industry, and that we believe in Senai, and we have a lot of pilots with different sectors. And this way, we ensure the companies can count on a steady flow of well-prepared professionals. And along the way, SENAI is responsible for all education aspects, as I told. And but we need to create conditions to these students. And in this part, the industries are very important because they give us some ideas how to encourage these people goes to the industry. And the program is completely modeled according to each sector needs, including student journey and teaching training. That is very important. And the results are very promising for now. In construction, for example, in less than 6 months, we have more than 70 companies joined the program to train people directly on construction sites. Classes of approximately 20 people, 25 people, students, as a flexible pathway, and including classes only for women with conditions as transportations, food, and childcare to ensure that they can attend classes. And the ICT sector, the technology and communication sector, we have more than 3,000 students have graduated thanks to companies that provide infrastructure and support. Still in the ICT, SENAI has created the Industrial AI program. And with companies has two fronts. Training professionals already working inside companies through residencies model and the proof of concepts and in real problems of industry, and preparing new professionals to enter in this faster growing field. And
Yes,
this
I'm sorry,
combination.
I think we have to come to an end because
Okay.
the 3 minutes are up.
Okay. Thank you very much.
But you can still say a concluding sentence.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll go over to Faisal Ben Brahim from Tunisia to hear your promising practice. Faisal has a PowerPoint presentation. Here it is. We can see it. Yes, now we can see it also in a presenting mode. Faisal, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Margarita. Thank you for this invitation. I will try to show you the system in Tunisia of one kind of work-based learning, which is alternate training. We have in Tunisia two models of both of them fit with work-based learning, which are alternate training and apprenticeship. Today, I show you the alternate training. First of all, we have a legal basis for this kind of training. This legal basis is mainly in one law of vocational training and one decree which stipulates the implementation of this alternate training and the implementation and how to provide this training. But the two texts, the two legal texts said that this kind of training is the dominant model in the vocational training system in Tunisia. We have also an order by the Minister of Vocational Training and Employment, which stipulated the learning outcomes of the professional technician. One example of learning outcomes of the graduates from alternate training. In our strategy of national employment, we obtained that the alternate training predominates in the national vocational training system. We focus in the assessment system of the learners in alternate training, and this assessment is based on competency-based approach. And we assess skill by skill the acquired competencies by learner. But we have some improvement in the future. We will focus also in the field of skills and field of tasks to cover an area of employability, because employability is needs many skills, not only one skill. So the mastery of the professional job passes on this mastery of some fields of skills. I invite you to focus in this scheme, in which we match the actors of the system of work, study, training, or alternate training. We have the company, we have the center, but we have also two main actors, which are the trainers and the tutors or mentors. The success of this system depend on the exercise carried out by both trainers and tutors. And the sustainability of this system depends on the funding of the system. So when you want to have a sustainable system, you have to think about how to fund and to finance this system. In Tunisia, we have this vocational training tax that we think is a success factor of the system because it is sustainable and is collected from companies in the percentage of 60% of this tax is utilized by VET centers and utilized by companies in the continual professional development of their staff, their tutors in the enterprises, and their mentors also. So I can say that the challenge for us is how to utilize these VTT vocational training tax effectively and in the manner which benefit for all the actors, the trainers, the managers in the companies, the trainees, and others. But I can finish saying that the main obstacle of the sustainability of the alternate training is the geographical distribution of the economical fabric and its coherence or compatibility with the vocational training map. It means in some regions we didn't have enough companies which can host learners and trainers, and also the coverage of vulnerable populations, particularly those located in the rural areas. This is our major challenge. I can finish in this stage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Faisal. And the floor goes over to Priscilla, even further to the east in New Zealand. Priscilla, you're muted. We cannot hear you. Yes.
Kia ora. I was just going to share my screen.
Great.
So no mai haere mai, a warm welcome from Aotearoa, New Zealand. We are right at the bottom of the South Pacific, nearest to the Antarctic. And we are presenting today from WINTEC, which is the Waikato Institute of Technology in New Zealand. We are primarily a tertiary-based institution, which is government-funded, and our focus is on vocational education. We deliver programs from undergraduate right through to the postgraduate and masters. And so if we could just move to our next slide, please. So in my country, Indigenous people, we speak in Te Reo Māori, and we introduce ourselves formally from the tribes that we come from. And as you can see on my left is Hine Amaru, that is the tribe of my mum, which is the northern tribe. On the right-hand side is Rungo Mai Wahine, which is a eastern tribe beside the sea of my father, and that is me in the middle. We use what is called whakatoki or proverbs when we talk to people, so it puts in the minds of everyone what we're trying to come across as our topic. So today I'm sharing with you e hara taku toa I te toa takitahi, engari he toa takitini. My success is not mine alone, it is the success of the collective. Next slide, please. So we use the Work Integrated Learning Program in WINTEC. This is primarily under the Will and Said, the Work Integrated New Zealand, which is an organisation that brings together all of the communities across Aotearoa, New Zealand that work in this space. They are mainly in the tertiary sector. And as you can see here, there are two main areas. One is the work placement, where students undertake an industry internship. This is where they're able to apply their theory that they've been learning in either an undergraduate or a postgraduate space, and their assessments are reflective of what they've been learning in that space. The second part is the work project or research area, and this is where students, while they are in their work placement, they use it as a primary source for data to collect information for their research. They are assigned an academic supervisor according to their speciality, whether it could be, for example, HR or accounting or supply chain logistics. The academic supervisor is there to support them in securing a work project, which can be assigned to them from their industry internship. Alternatively, they may have an area of research that they wanted to focus on. They then study, work hard to complete that project, and then they present it at a student-led conference where industry attends as well as their peers from around the community and inside WINTEC. From those two experiences, we find that the students gain a vast knowledge on and experience on the industry they'd like to work in. It also provides them with an opportunity to not only present the skills and learning, but also to reap the benefits of writing a report on that space. Next slide, please. So when we think about work integrating learning and what are the drivers and barriers, well, as we mentioned, that it actually does involve three stakeholders. One is the student, the person undertaking the internship. The second is the educational provider, in this case is WINTEC. And the third place is the workplace or the community. So when our students are engaged in work integrated learning, they do complete what we call a contract that is similar to how they would complete a contract if they were working in a permanent role. when we looked at some drivers for WIL, we can see for students mainly as they want to gain that work experience. It also allows them something to put on their CV, and it also helps them understand the learning that they've gained through the last either 3 to 4 years of study. For the educational provider, it's a really great opportunity for us to strengthen our networks with both the work placement or community, as well as building a strong alumni with our students. And as we can see here, the industry, their benefits is that they get recruitment opportunities. So this internship can be either paid or unpaid. However, as we know, we always have a few barriers, and the more students you have, the more challenges you have to helping them find an internship or work placement. So it's really important as educational providers that we align the student. For example, if they're learning accounting, that we assign them with an accounting firm. Now, the barriers for industry in this space is they have to make sure that they have a manager or a senior to assign a staff member to that intern. And sometimes when we have busy lives or challenging staff numbers, that can cause a barrier. However, we have over the last 15 years or so looked at strategies to help us overcome these barriers. And when we think of our students, we help to prepare them by providing a workshop with them prior to the start of their studies. We also have a LinkedIn account, which is under WinTech, which we provide and update all of their work placement opportunities. We also, in those workshops, we teach them how to use their CV and interview skills. Strategies for us as an educational provider, we have now got a work placement coordinator whose primary role is linking the students and their talents and experience to the right workplace provider or community. And then as we see in industry, community is the feedback that we gain from them. So a lot of our feedback that we gain from industries is not only the importance of them knowing the theory and having the skills, but is the soft skills. That has been our strongest feedback, that they want to know that the students are going to turn up on time, that they're strong communicators, they can work as a team.
Priscilla, I'm afraid we're running out of time. Can I ask you to sum up?
Wonderful. So I've just shared a brief story that was written about one of our students who we see as a vulnerable student. It was her first time representing her family and her culture, which is actually from Samoa, and she did an internship overseas in the US and then gained a permanent role. But thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. We're a bit over time, but I still think we should take a few questions. And I would kindly like to ask our speakers maybe also to answer the questions in the chat that are directly addressed to them. I can see that Vanessa already has answered one question. Okay, so I'm just looking. Okay. Okay, there is another question to Vanessa. Sorry, I'm just yes.
I'm trying to write in
yes. Are the short courses linked to any official qualification, like any level of the qualification framework?
The short courses like to any official? Not exactly. The courses depends of the portfolio of Senai, and we have at least 160 hours for the qualifications courses. And then this is that we started with they started the program. That's the first level of qualifications to guarantee that the people has a professional job. And but depends of the with the sector needs and the portfolios of Senai. But in some case we can arrange together a new course, but is that.
Thank you very much. There are many more questions here, and I'm sorry that we cannot answer them all directly now in the webinar session. Please, Faisal, Priscilla, and Vanessa, if you could just have a look and maybe answer some of them now, and so that we will be able to go on with our program. Thank you very much. These
Thank
were
you.
really very interesting experiences and practices from very different contexts and also different, let's say, institutional perspectives. So thank you very much to Vanessa, Faisal, and Priscilla. I hope you stay with us and we can still benefit from your wide experience. So now we're going over to our next session, which is the open expert discussion on web-based learning. And I'm very happy to have three experts also from quite different geographical and institutional contexts here with us on stage, if we want to put it like this. Hello to Yomari Lantigua. She leads the dual training program division in the business competitiveness department of Infotep in the Dominican Republic. Yomari has a master's degree in labor law and social security with more than 25 years of experience in implementing dual training programs. She is actively participating in the creation, review, and improvement of the legal regulations, technical procedures, and documentations that govern this program, as well as in the training of the actors who are part of this strategy. Our second expert is Mona Idrisu. She's head of youth employment and skills at the African Center for Economic Transformation, ASET, based in Ghana. Hello, Mona. Thank you for joining us. Mona oversees projects that help African countries create an enabling environment for developing youth skills to meet current and future job demands. She has an MSc in Development Economics from the University of Manchester and a Master in Evidence-Based Social Policy from the University of Oxford. Mona is an international development expert and economist with extensive work experience in research and generating evidence-based learning across various sectors relevant to youth, including youth employment and job creation, entrepreneurship, and others. And our third expert is Marte Geiben from Germany. Hello, Marte. Good to see you. Marte has been working at the Federal Institute for Vocational Education and Training, or short BIB, since 2010. Her main focus in research is an international comparison of vocational initial and continuing education. Furthermore, she was involved in several European projects on national level with the focus to reform parts or entire vocational education systems with a special perspective on work-based learning and the involvement of stakeholders. Marte holds a master and a PhD in adult education and continuous training at the University of Education in Freiburg in Germany. So I'm very happy to have three expert women here with me on stage, and I'll address the first question to Yomari. Yomari, what is the common understanding of work-based learning in the Dominican Republic, and what is the idea behind it? How will this contribute to employability? So Yomari is speaking English, so we should all switch in translation channels. Thank you. Speaking Spanish, I'm sorry. Okay. I cannot hear you.
It's not only you, Margarita. We cannot hear, unfortunately.
Yes. So, Yomari, can you hear me? Because we cannot hear you, and it appears that no one can hear you. Also, the interpreters cannot hear you. Can you try again? Okay, there seems to be a problem. Okay, may I suggest that okay, that you maybe get out of the Zoom session and get in again? This sometimes helps. Or Max, do you have any other suggestion?
Yeah, that may be an option to go out, and before you join, you can do the audio test. And okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. And hopefully she will be joining us in a second. In the meantime, I would kindly like to invite Mona. Mona, in an earlier conversation we had, you underlined the importance of the informal sector for the African economy, and we also had Gonzalo in the earlier sessions saying that the informal economy is a very important factor in Latin America as well. I believe this is a very important question also for other countries. So could you explain to us what the significance of the informal sector in Africa is from the perspective of its training practices, which are mainly work-based?
Great, thank you, Margarita. Just to check that you can hear me correctly.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. And it's a pleasure to be joining everyone this afternoon. I'm calling in from Ghana, so it's afternoon on my end. Yes, and just to give context for those who are joining from outside of the African region, the informal sector, as Margarita has pointed out, is very crucial to the African economy. Well over 80% of our young people, our employment is happening in the informal sector. And so for us, our technical vocational education and training systems are very, they're embedded in informal apprenticeships and informal training system. It's the most common pathway as compared to the formal education systems, especially when you look at trades that are around, say, carpentry, tailoring, mechanics. A lot of this is situated in the informal sector. So, for example, you take the case of Côte d'Ivoire and Ghana. We have a report coming out, shameless plug here. We're actually launching it tomorrow, which is looking at TVET system in 6 African countries. And we talk about the informal sector and the significance of that when it comes to traditional master apprenticeship arrangements. So for us, the informal system is where we find low-cost, accessible, demand-driven TVET. And it's interesting because when I say this is demand-driven, even though the informal sector has its shortcomings, we find that the informal sector is actually more closely linked to the labor market, because a lot of times the master trainers in the informal sectors are themselves entrepreneurs. So in the apprenticeship system, they are very good at recycling what the demand or the labor market, taking the pulse of the labor market and feeding it back into training approaches and training mechanisms for young people. That said, we still have its shortcoming around the quality varying when it comes to the informal sector. We haven't yet achieved a standardized way of ensuring that the quality that young people are, the quality of training that young people are receiving when it comes to workplace learning in the informal sector is of quality. We still have vulnerable groups that are exposed and often left out. We're talking women particularly. So despite the effort that has been made to formalize our TVET, the formal TVET is yet to match the skill and the reach and responsiveness that we see in the informal TVET arrangements. And I'm sure we'll come to that later, but there's a lot that the formal TVET can learn from informal TVET training systems, whilst we're improving informal TVET training systems in Africa.
Thank you very much, Mona, for this very interesting insight in a topic which is very important in TVET, I suppose, but under researched and under discussed, in my opinion. Yomari, thank you for joining us again. Let's try again whether we can hear you now. Okay, no, I cannot hear you. Are there? Okay, I'm sorry, Yomari, I cannot hear you. Okay, while we're trying to work on this, I'll give the floor to Marte from Germany, and hopefully we'll find a solution for this audio problem with Yomari. Marte, you have been working for many years in this area at BIB with a focus, let's say, on the transfer and the transferability of these concepts. So let me start by asking you, what is the understanding of work-based learning at BIB, and what is the idea how this contributes to employability?
I thank you very much for inviting me to this webinar. I hope you can hear me. And
yes, we can.
I have to say that the German system is quite complex. So we have a school-based system and we have the apprenticeship system. And what I'm doing is that I'm focusing on the apprenticeship system because that is what the BIBB is responsible for. So, and in the apprenticeship system, work-based learning is integrated by law because we have two learning venues. We have the school and we have the enterprise. And the learners have a working contract with the enterprise, and they are embedded in the real working environment. So they do not have any constructed working situations, but the real production and working situations. And that is something that is very important in our view for work-based learning, to be in real working situations. And that is also something that supports the employability because they learn what they really need in real working life because they are already in the working life and they get more and more responsibilities during their learning venue. So they start the first year maybe with some small parts. Sometimes they also have learning working places that prepare for the real production situation, but they are always embedded in the real working situation. This is something that is very important. And what is also important is that we have the training regulations that are binding to the workplaces, to the enterprises. So they have to train a certain amount of content that is binding for everyone. And so it enables a minimum standard of competencies that are trained and learned within this apprenticeship. So everyone can rely on this minimum standards that are binding all over Germany. So if one is learning in the south in a profession and he goes to the north, the employer knows that it is exactly the minimum standard that he relies on.
Thank you very much, Marte, for giving this brief explanation of the complex system in Germany. So we'll have a try again with Yomari. Yomari, can you try again to...
Bueno, Margarita, ¿me escucha?
Yes, great. Now we can hear you. Perfect. Thank you to all of you who have worked in the background to make this work. Hello, Yomari. So my question, yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
We can hear you. My question to you was, what is the understanding of work-based learning in the Dominican Republic, and how is this connected with employability? So how does work-based learning support employability?
Bueno, buenos días, saludos a todos, gracias por esta invitación desde República Dominicana, del Instituto Nacional de Formación Técnico Profesional. Agradecemos este espacio. Para ponerlo en contexto, básicamente en nuestro país el sistema educativo está estructurado de la siguiente forma. Tenemos al MINSIF, Ministerio de Educación Superior, que norma y regula todo lo que tiene que ver con la educación superior. Tenemos al MINER, que es el Ministerio de Educación de la República Dominicana, que es el que regula y norma lo que es la formación a nivel primario, medio y secundario. Y tenemos al INFOTEC, que es el que trabaja en lo que tiene que ver con la formación técnico profesional, como les explicaba en principio. En República Dominicana tenemos distintas vías para lograr lo que es el aprendizaje en el lugar de trabajo, pero una de las metodologías más reconocidas es el programa de formación dual, que estamos desarrollando desde el IPOTEC desde el año 1988. Este programa básicamente tiene la característica de que el 60% de la formación y de la capacitación del aprendiz se desarrolla en el entorno real de trabajo, y el 40%, que es la formación del saber ser y diríamos, los conocimientos teóricos tecnológicos se desarrollan en el centro de formación. Desde el MINER, que lo explicaba, aquí se desarrolla lo que son unas pasantías, básicamente en el bachillerato, para obtener la titulación, que dura alrededor de 400 horas, pero en este caso no existe, digamos, un marco regulatorio para lo que es el desafío de esta formación en el contexto de la empresa. Por otro lado, también tenemos en el Ministerio de Educación Superior lo que llamamos sistema de pasantías. Ese sistema de pasantías, recientemente, este ministerio elaboró lo que es la resolución 0225, donde establece que los egresados de las distintas universidades pueden desarrollar la formación técnica, la formación profesional, perdón, en el entorno real de trabajo. Esta formación tiene una duración de 30 horas mínimas, o puede durar más de 30 horas en caso de que eso va de acuerdo a lo que es la currícula o la carrera que la persona vaya a desarrollar en la formación superior. Entonces, en relación a la siguiente pregunta de cuáles han sido, usted preguntaba en relación a cuáles han sido, ¿me repite por favor la siguiente pregunta?
The question was, yes, the question was how these work-based learning programs support employability. How does this work out in practice?
Bueno, en la experiencia que tenemos en relación a lo que es la implementación de la formación dual, el 89% de nuestros egresados, entonces el estudio que hicimos en el 2023, se quedaron empleados, insertados en el mercado de trabajo. Y eso básicamente, desde mi punto de vista, se debe a que el empresario forma parte de ese proceso de transformación y de cambio en los jóvenes. Como les decía anteriormente, el 60% de la formación se da en la empresa. Es decir, la empresa tiene la seguridad, el conocimiento de qué tipo de personal va a contratar. ¿Sí? No solamente el aprendiz aprende en la empresa una formación, una competencia técnica, sino también que desarrolla habilidades blandas. Se acostumbra, se adecua a la cultura de la empresa, y eso hace que de alguna forma el empresario pues ya conozca a fondo qué tipo de personal tiene, cuáles son las habilidades con las que cuenta el aprendiz, y eso asegura de que eso de alguna manera da seguridad al empresario de que ese talento que va a contratar pues va a cumplir con sus expectativas, porque él ha visto su recorrido dentro de todo el proceso de formación. Es decir, que entendemos que el programa de formación dual, por lo menos nuestro sistema, es el que tiene es el más eficiente para el tema de la empleabilidad. En nosotros su sistema no hay el porcentaje no es tan elevado, pero en la formación dual sí es muy efectivo.
Thank you very much for these interesting example from Dominican Republic, and also for pointing out what kind of skill sets actually are required during the work-based learning practices. We are approaching the end of our webinar, so I would like to give a very short question to each of you, and I would kindly like to ask you to give me a very short answer, maybe just one sentence or something like that. And the question is the same to all three of you. What is your recommendation to the policy level? So what should policymakers do to improve work-based learning and help it improve employability? Mona, can we start with you?
Okay, thank you. So at the policy level, for us, it will be how we are ensuring that we are recognizing learning that is happening in the informal sector. A lot of countries have started initiatives around there. For example, in Ghana, we have the recognition of prior learning policy, which is trying to translate skills gained in the informal sector to the equivalence of that in certification in the formal sector. We need more of this, and we need that to be implemented on the ground, because as I said, there's a lot that the formal sector can learn. Informal sector offers flexibility. So we need to think of how we're building at the policy level flexible learning in our formal TVET, because not a lot of young people on the continent have the luxury of schooling and schooling alone. So they're working, they're schooling, so having that flexibility helps. And also making sure that we are involving also other things like networking because again, the thing our study finds that the informal sector offers social networks better than we do in the formal sector. So we often forget the importance of these networks post-training, but having these work-based learning approaches that also builds social network for students enables them transition easier into entrepreneurship and into the workplace post their apprenticeships or learning.
Thank you very much, Mona. Over to you, Marte. What are your recommendations in terms of improving work-based learning and making it more meaningful for employability?
The experience we made is that it is very important, basing on a school-based system, it is very important to include employers in the region, to take them into also into responsibility to support the development of training contents, and also to host the learners in their real working conditions. So it must not be a dual system like it is an apprenticeship, because it's not possible in many countries, but to find a way within the existing framework to cooperate with schools and training centers to make the best use of the circumstances and to provide the most possible real working situations to the learners, and to have a look on what is possible in this context.
Thank you very much, Marte. So providing real working situations is the point here. Marie, the last word to you. What is your recommendation to the policy level in order to improve work-based learning?
Bueno, entiendo que es relevante que en los países existan marcos regulatorios claros en relación a las condiciones contractuales tanto del aprendiz como de la empresa. Sobre todo que a los aprendices se les reconozcan derechos básicos en este proceso de formación. Y mi segunda recomendación es lograr que no solamente el Estado, primero que el Estado cree políticas de incentivo para que la mayor cantidad de empresas se vinculen al programa, pero sobre todo lograr que los principales líderes, diríamos los líderes de asociaciones empresariales y empresas líderes en cada país, formen parte de este proceso, es decir, que sean voceros, diríamos, aliados de lo que es el programa de formación dual. Y en el contexto de la empresa, lograr que desde la alta gerencia hasta el monitor, que es el experto responsable del programa, pues entiendan, tengan un entendimiento claro de cuál es el rol que juega el aprendiz y qué se busca dentro de ese proceso formativo. Porque creo que es importante que dentro de la empresa exista una claridad y una diferencia entre lo que es un trabajador y un aprendiz. El aprendiz es una persona que busca en ese entorno empresarial desarrollar competencias, habilidades, y es importante que la persona que la empresa elija en ese proceso formativo esté claro de cuál es su rol desde el punto de vista formativo, desde el punto de vista técnico y cómo va a manejar ese entorno dentro de lo que es ese proceso de formación.
Thank you very much. Very interesting points and recommendations from all sides, very valuable, and I'm sure we will be able to take this up also in the coming sessions of this webinar series. We are almost at the end of our webinar. We've had inspiring discussions about the concept of employability and TVET, reminding us of the need to always contextualize and also have a look at the existing socioeconomic context. And we have also had very interesting pitches and discussions on work-based learning, pointing out also the need at the policy level, for example, to provide frameworks and to provide real learning situations. I would like to thank all of our speakers and all of my colleagues who are working in the background. And I would kindly like to invite all of our participants, the audience, to take a minute to fill in the feedback forms. Ulrich, would you also share the presentation with the feedback form? Yes, exactly. You can just use the QR code here. And I believe that Natalie has also posted it in the chat. Thank you, Felista, for posting it again. This is very helpful for us to get your feedback. So if you have a minute, to just take this time to fill it in. I would like to invite all of you to join us next week, exactly in 1 week on October 7th, same time in the afternoon for us here in Europe, in the morning or in the evening for other parts of the world. We will be diving into a topic which is related to what we were speaking today. We're going to speak on dual VET. And I would be happy to see every one of you again. And we also invite you to spread the word on our webinar series. You can here see the dates and the times, and also a registration for those who have not already joined us. So let me say thank you to all our speakers, to Stephanie, Gonzalo, to our pitches, to Vanessa, to Faisal, and to sorry, I'm I'm now overwhelmed with all these names. Anyway, many thanks to all our speakers, to all my colleagues who have been working hard. I'm sorry that there may have been some technical problems, but we have been able to resolve them, and I'm sure that we have had a great opportunity to learn and to exchange views. Hopefully seeing you next week. Have a wonderful day, afternoon, evening, and thank you for participating and sharing your ideas with us. Thank you very much, and see you next week.